through the avenue of corruption and see where we're headed as a country. But on page 3 of the Daily Nation, some good news. Kenyan part of a team edging closer to finding HIV cure. And here's the thing. This is a Kenyan who, of course, we should be celebrating. But what worries me more is the fact that we have very brilliant minds in Kenya. We have very intelligent minds, but we seem never to be able to give them an environment to harness that brilliance. And David, this young man, he's part of a team of scientists who are actually getting very close to finding a cure for HIV and AIDS.
You know, Mike, the person who sorted out London's transport mess is a Kenyan.
Absolutely.
From Homa Bay County. You have this gentleman, a Kenyan.
Professor Johnson Edagwa.
A Kenyan. Kenyans have done great things out there. It's not because we do not give them an environment. For example, I think Charles Hinga was just poached by President Kenyatta when he was working as the infrastructure advisor to Kagame in Rwanda. And I bet the president was on a tour, met him and said, tomorrow, first flight, home. And many others who have been found to be doing remarkable things out there have been offered an opportunity back at home. But they come and look at the system, the way it works and the way it frustrates them. The way corruption is so entrenched and cartels run the show. And the way your own life is at risk. I remember one of the doctors who was the director for clinical at Kenyatta National Hospital was given an opportunity to merely act as CEO. And he said, no, I have no time for it. Because he knows what it is to be at the helm of those institutions, where systems are just not made to work. You will go and be told M-Pesa is not working or queue here for M-Pesa when you should have till numbers displayed to show this is where the money should be paid to. Come to us with your receipt. It will reflect automatically and be served. They will not digitize it because when they digitize it, it kills corruption. Go to Kenyatta National Hospital today. It is a hospital that has a pharma industry, a little industry that should be able to make generic drugs cheaply for some of our common diseases. It's not working. Why? Because someone has to benefit from that. Someone has to be able to tell you, when you live here, go to this particular pharmacy. That's where you're going to find this drug. When we are able to deal with our problem, we will attract even many more people. Most of the Kenyans who live outside here, I mean, leave the scientist and researcher who's doing a tremendous job, who's living a very decent life. I have lived out of this country, and I know without shadow of a doubt that most of the Kenyans who live outside this country do not do the most decent of jobs.
Absolutely.
But because it has a decent pay and they cannot fathom how they are going to come back to what seems to be a dysfunctional system, they had rather worked there, sent home what they can do, build their mother homes, pay fee for their siblings, pay bills for the sick, but not come back home. And that's why devolution needs to work. When devolution works, there will be a bit of a promise for these people to come back and replicate what they've seen and done out there back at home.
All right, very briefly, Mark Bichachi, your comments on that.
If you go to any developed country, there's one thing they all have in common: order. That's the one thing they have in common. Now, Kenya has research institutions, okay? I want you to ask the question, who really funds them? KEMRI, all of these things are funded by the West. Why? Because in our protocol of things, we know they are important, but we would not be bothered. Kenya has an overflow of universities. We want to fold them together. But when was the last time Egerton University came up with a proper research paper on agriculture in this country? Nairobi University, has it given us a plan for what we are going to do with global warming? You see, the problem is that Kenya is not that Kenya lacks the institutions and the thinking to be able to provide the environment for these things to happen. It is that we live in a world of disorder. Egerton University the other day built a gate for 60 million shillings. 60 million shillings, a gate. I wonder whether it's half of your degree. If you just pass through,
Just through
you
that.
become brilliant. This is the problem. Because if you spend 60 million on a gate, what kind of research? Are you the Pioneer University of Gate Technology?
We go back to corruption
And
because at
that's
the
the
end of the
problem.
day,
It's
and
disorder.
impunity.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that now puts, of course, a spotlight on our universities and what people actually acquire from those universities.
me very angry.
But let's move on to page 8. 5 questions on Dusit 7 months later. Again, another question of follow-up here. Dusit D2, the hotel that had a terrorist attack not too long ago, about a year ago, was reopening. But more importantly is the questions that need to be asked regarding some of the security features and measures we've taken. I mean, I went to a mall not too long ago and I asked the security guard, what exactly are you checking? I normally have my gym bag in the boot every single time. They never bothered to open it. And even if they did, I'm not quite sure they know what they're checking. But for me, what that tells me is that we go through motions that we think we're being more secure. But the truth of the matter is they have no clue what they're doing. Despite the terrorist attack that we have had, and we honestly give the police credit where it's due, we have had a reduction. But the truth of the matter is, are we doing all that we need to do, or will we react again after it has happened, David?
You know, if you go to Ireland, if you go even to Iceland, come back home to Windhoek, Namibia, by just looking at the fence, you will realize in those countries they have hedges. That's all.
They actually don't have walls, high walls.
Because that is proof of a secure country.
Right.
If you come to Kenya, visit Utawala, where it would be beautiful to just have the hedges, but every person is enclosed in their compound.
With the high wall.
That's a demonstration of insecurity. But I do not want Kenyans to live in fear. I trust that it is in the interest of the state, as they have been trying, to keep us secure. I do not want Kenyans to constantly feel insecure. Our reality, sadly, is that we have had 2 incidences that were, that were very chilling. There was Westgate, then there was Dusit. Sadly, in both cases, in one of the cases, there was admission of fault in part of the agencies that should have responded to an intelligence report from their counterparts globally saying, at this and this time, this will happen. You need to intensify security. And people ignore them. There is no one who will, in my estimation, go back to where they have caused a mess. They will be targeting a next place. We cannot afford, as you rightly say, to only put measures after the happenings. So yes, there's a need for better training of our security. I saw the Private Security Regulatory Authority was created, and Fazul is its CEO, and there has been a proposition that they should be armed.
Armed, right.
But that's not enough if they can't be basically trained on what to do. Or better yet, these installations called malls, the only clearance they must be given is that of ensuring it's secure, so that they have the equipment that can verify. You know, when you visit Safaricom, any of their offices, they don't even need to open your car to establish that you're carrying anything that would be harmful. They just have laser objects to run around, and it will be able to tell or pick it. So maybe it's time we compelled each mall in this country, for the sake of the security of the people who visit it, to own or have at least a measure of security or equipment that will be able to keep the people in there, the clients, safe.
Secure. All right, I wanted to take a break, and I know, Mark, you've not commented on that, but if time allows, we'll do that. But I'd like us to finish this segment with page 14 of The Nation, if we're able to show that, because it will be part of what we're going to be talking about, and it's the cartoon. And we do know Punguza Mzigo has been a major point of discussion, to a point where now the courts have actually